Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. And happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and everyone across the globe. Happy Thanksgiving. This is the recap of the NFL Week 12 and taking out some serious implications from it. We have ourselves a really good series of games on the Week 12 matchup that I think we as fans can actually see as a positive. It started off with the Browns and the Steelers matchup, which looked like a snow globe at one point, and the Browns winning that game, becoming 3-8 against the Steelers, a 24-19 showing. Nick Chubb had a great game, 2 touchdowns, only 60 yards rushing. Russell Wilson did himself a good favor of throwing it close to 300 yards, but not enough. And the Browns come back and win that game. The next game, which this week continues on a series of divisional matchups that are indicative of what we're going to see down the stretch here for the rest of the schedule. And I think universally across the board, we're seeing kind of a pull away in certain divisions of certain teams, and then we're seeing some rescindance of other teams. And I'll get back into that here when we get down to some of these matchups. The Vikings and the Bears. The Vikings did end up winning that game, and they're now 9-2 against in total. Sam Darnold, had a game-winning drive there in overtime, and I think what you're seeing there is a little bit more of a comeback for the Bears with Caleb Williams kind of rebounding a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball, but they're still losing on the defensive side of the ball. And I can tell you this much: Aaron Jones. 22 carries for 106 yards and 1 score. Not so much of a Justin Jefferson show, but it was I believe Mr. Addison had a great show as well for 8 receptions for 162 yards. So that's that matchup. Now, that division is probably arguably one of the most competitive divisions in the entire NFL. The NFC North is remarkably challenging, and it's being led by the Detroit Lions. And they placed the Indianapolis Colts this week, and I don't think this game was ever in question of who was in control. The Detroit Lions are pretty much scoring when they want to, and it was 24-6 was the score for that. And the Lions are now 10-1, doing very well on the road. They're 6-0 on the road. Jamar Gibbs had 21 carries for 90 yards and 2 scores. Mr. Pittman had 6 receptions on 96 yards. Jared Goff did a very good job maintaining the ball, not losing, not too many turnovers or anything, and kind of moved towards it. The New England Patriots, my New England Patriots against the Dolphins in Miami, is a continuation of what I just talked about earlier of being a divisional round, divisional rivalry type week in the NFL. And the Patriots have always had challenges in Miami. I don't think it's ever been a question of that being an issue. It's always been a challenge for the New England Patriots going down to Miami to play. Whether or not it's the humidity or it's the team, there's always some kind of challenge, and it's always a difficult matchup. It's also sometimes a low-scoring matchup, but let not be troubled here. The Dolphins did not have any issue scoring. Tua Tagovailoa had 4 scoring touchdowns. Passing touchdowns. Jalen Waddle went for 8 receptions, 144 yards and a touchdown. And the Patriots lose 34-15 in Miami. At one point, the Patriots didn't start scoring any points until the 4th quarter of this matchup. I don't think the game was ever in doubt if Miami was going to win this game. And I think universally there needs to be some serious calls from New England Patriots fans and across the globe, really to kind of see is Gerard Mayo our guy? I have some doubts, and with good reason. I'm not saying there definitely is. I'm giving the guy a shot. The roster is what the roster is. Drake May is doing what he can do, but I think this is not the New England Patriot way to lose in division multiple times. We're now 3-9. We're now competing for a top 10 draft pick now. We're going to probably be out of playoff contention here probably within the next week or two. I say by week 13, we're going to be out of playoff contention if we lose the next 2 games. and that's just going to be a sad year. I mean, I think we need the Patriots need to draft a running back or another. They already have Ramondre Stevenson, who's great. They have Drake May, maybe an outside threat, maybe an offensive lineman. Definitely some upside here. But that's the divisional round this week, and Tua, they're 5-6. It's still the Buffalo Bills division, in my view, going down the stretch here, and I can only see it getting better. Okay, so you have the next game. We're getting more and more into the 12 o'clock matchups or the 1 o'clock matchup, East Coast time. You have the Buccaneers and Giants. This past week, you have Daniel Jones asking for his release and being granted his release from New York. So you had, it's more of a dumpster fire in New York, and I suspect it's only going to get worse. And obviously the New York Jets fired their general manager this week on a bye week. It's only going to get worse, and where the carousel of coaching and front office teams are going to go down this path. The next one, at 30-7, Baker Mayfield pretty much had a great game. Mr. Irving there, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back, had himself 12 carries for 87 yards. It just, Baker celebrated and mocked Tony DeVito. I just don't see why it's a good idea, but I get it. Showmanship, a little bit of sportsmanship, not there. So it's just kind of sad. But the Cowboys and the Commies, the Commanders, had themselves a game that really was pretty boring up until the last 4 minutes of the game, and it had a lot of back and forth. The special teams game was across the board in the NFL was just remarkable to watch, and I mean that sincerely. That it was all over the place. Missed punts, muff punts, punts return for touchdowns, for field goals being missed, everything. There was a lot of special teams action, and the Cowboys win against the Commanders on a last-ditch play, really, and the Commanders lose 3 in a row here, and they still have a chance. It's the Eagles' division right now. The Commanders were definitely holding it competitively, but I see that they're on a 3-game slide there, and hopefully they can right the ship here and kind of keep it competitive with the Eagles. But as we get down into divisions, continuation of the divisional rounds games, you had the Titans and the Texans. That was a pretty close matchup, with the Titans actually winning that game against the Texans, and that's a couple-game losing streak now for the Texans. The Chiefs against the Panthers wasn't really a divisional matchup, but the Panthers barely lost to the Chiefs, and they were actually in control of this game down the stretch here. The Panthers were really really in control of this game up until the very last drive, and the Chiefs came back and kicked the field goal at the very end. So that tells me that they're holding on, and they've been tested, but the Bills knocking them off the week prior should have kind of been then kind of more of a kick in the ass and given them more of a stretch to play, and they didn't do anything. So I expect them hopefully to kind of right the ship some more, and hopefully continue on. The Broncos and Raiders game, the Raiders are a dumpster fire, and Broncos, Bo Nix is doing his thing. He's definitely a great rookie. Really a great asset to that team. I see them rebuilding continuation around him in Denver. I see that another couple of years from now, they're going to be a monster. I think they're a monster right now. They're 7-5. And down the stretch, their schedule is going to get a little more difficult because they do have the Kansas City Chiefs. They do have the Los Angeles Chargers. So that schedule is going to get a little bit tougher, and they're going to lose some games. They're going to win some games. But for a winning, I think they're going to do pretty well. 7-5 down the stretch is going to be pretty good. Going down the stretch here for the final 6 weeks of the season. So I will say this, though. No one saw the Packers beating the 49ers. That's what happened. It was remarkable. And it's insane to watch. But the Packers put on a killing streak against the 49ers that did not have Brock Purdy. I don't think Christian McCaffrey played at all. And I don't think Deebo Samuel played. I think three starters for the 49ers did not play. So, of course, the Packers had themselves a field day on defense, and Josh Jacobs had himself a great game. 3 touchdowns, 106 yards, only about 26 touches. George Kittle had himself a great game as well. But you're seeing a lot of parity in the NFC West. And I think Arizona is going to be the team to beat alongside with the Seahawks. That division is very much up for grabs. The Seahawks did end up beating the Cardinals 16-6. No matter when you play the Seahawks, it's a tough matchup. That's historic. It's going back and forth for many years. But, you had a pick 6 in that game. And you really genuinely had a good defensive matchup between two divisional opponents that genuinely are pretty level in their skill level. So I think that's a good showing as well. That the NFC West is still undecided. The AFC South is still undecided. And it's just, I think the AFC West, we might see ourselves a wild card team out of the AFC West, probably potentially being the Los Angeles Chargers or the Denver Broncos, depending on how it goes. The AFC Central. Wait a second. Yeah, AFC Central. That's going to be, that's just going to be a barn burner, I think. That's just going to, if you look at the record, the Steelers are 8-3. The Ravens, they're 8-4. Coming down the stretch, that is just going to be that AFC Central might be the second wild card team, and the first wild card team might be the AFC West. So, going to have a difficult stretch situation there. But the Sunday night game was the Eagles and Rams, and the Eagles. Saquon Barkley is a man amongst boys. 255 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Just pound that rock, and they just let him eat. That was a historic day, and I will say, you can tell there's a reason why he came to the Eagles, and the reason why he is who he is. And there's no, ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's a phenomenal player, and there's no question about that. The Monday night game was really much a back and forth matchup between the two Harbaugh brothers coaching, but it really was Derrick Henry show. It was 140 yards on 24 carries, and I think Lance McConkey had 6 receptions for 83 yards. He's becoming a good receiver on the fantasy football side of the world. And as well as, if you're looking for a same game action, Lance McConkey is probably going to be good. You kind of have to pick your battles when you're doing same game or same day fantasy, up or down on yardage and things. But I think he's definitely going to be resurged up to being a really good receiver. I think Cooper Kupp was the same type of receiver we saw 3 or 4 years ago before the injury plague kind of happened to him. But I think as we speak about the matchups, the parity that I want to talk about, the theme of this week is divisional opponent week, right? That was the theme. Continued to be the theme. You're going to start seeing teams kind of round out their season of who they are as identities in their division, and you're also seeing who has the teams to beat. You're seeing that more and more. And I'm telling you, some of these divisions are very strong. They're sharpening their edges, sharpening their swords to get ready to go into the playoffs, right? If you face anybody in the AFC Central, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, that's going to be a tough matchup. You face anybody in the AFC West, the Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, the Chargers, the Oakland Raiders even. It's still, a difficult matchup, right? That's for the AFC. Now, I'm not telling you that the AFC East is weak. It has historically been weak for over 10 years now because the Patriots pretty much own that division for a long time. Now the Bills are starting to own it again. Back in the 90s, they did the same thing, and they're going to continue to do it again. The NFC, in my opinion, is probably stronger going into the playoffs and sharpening their edges and their tools and their weaponry, because all the teams in the NFC are very, very, very good. The 49ers were doing pretty good up until this point, last couple weeks. The Eagles, the Detroit Lions, the Packers, the Vikings are all doing very well in the NFC North. Very strong division. The NFC South, you have, the Buccaneers are 5-6. That's pretty much a weak division. Panthers, Saints, very weak division. But you also have a very difficult division at the NFC West, right? So, also have the NFC East, which, the Cowboys were supposed to be the team to beat. Not this year. Haha. The Eagles are still running that division. The Commanders have definitely resurged as a team that's competitive, that is valuable to a wild card place. Now, question is down the stretch, who will reign supreme and earn those wild card spots? And who will win divisional rounds? If you look at the schedule here for Week 13, I'm going to preview this. Week 13, Thanksgiving Day, ladies and gentlemen. Thanksgiving Day. Happy Turkey Day. Gobble, gobble. Hope everyone, you and your family, are doing great. Detroit plays the Bears, so another divisional round. Packers play the Dolphins on the night game, the nightcap. And the midday cap is the Giants and Cowboys, better known as $50 ticket day at Jerry World. Good times. I think it's down to $25 now for games on Thanksgiving. I would definitely enjoy that. But let's see here. The next Friday, you even have a Friday game. You have a Friday game this week with the Chiefs in Kansas City facing the Las Vegas Raiders. Excuse me. Don't want to mix that up. But yeah. Heavily favored. Kansas City is favored by 2 touchdowns. In the Thursday Thanksgiving games, you pretty much have a very close spread, minus the 12 o'clock game. The 12 o'clock game is a 10-point spread for the Detroit Lions. Cowboys have a 3.5-point spread, which honestly, that should be a plus 3.5 to the Giants. Plus 3 to the Giants, not 3.5, but I see why they're juicing it. The Packers, minus 3.5 are the favorites against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are not going to like playing in Lambeau, so that's going to be a difficult matchup. But the Raiders and the Chiefs on Friday, that's a reasonable game. If you like something to watch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, that's something to watch. But the Sunday slate of games, I would say, arguably, are more heavily towards some more divisional matchups as well as conference matchups. So there's some pinnacle matchups that I think a lot of us need to pay attention to. The first one being the Steelers and the Bengals. That's a divisional matchup that's going to matter. If the Steelers lose this game as well, they're going to become 8-4. Not saying they're going to lose the division by any means, but it's definitely an opportunity for them to kind of continually push the tempo. The Chargers and the Falcons are a matchup, which is not divisional round. Cardinals and the Vikings, that is interconference play. And I think, obviously, those are 2 potential leaders in their said divisions. So I think the Vikings need to kind of push out and really do well here against the Cardinals. Let's see. I'll be interested to watch that matchup. The Colts and the Patriots, that is going to be a rough game to watch on national television. That is played in Foxborough. That's a rough one. Seahawks and Jets in New York. That's going to be a tough one to watch as well. Texans versus Jaguars is interdivision. Rams versus Saints is interconference. Buccaneers and Panthers are within the division. That's going to be fun. That's at 3:05. Another one at 3:30 is the Eagles and Ravens, the game of the 2 dirty birds, or 3 dirty birds, Eagles and Ravens. And then the Sunday night game is the Bills and the 49ers. So if Brock Purdy's back, which I'm not sure if they announced his return or not this week, we might see some CMC as well. The Bills are going to be pretty much, they're a 7-point favorite there. The Ravens are a 3-point favorite against the Eagles. Not surprised there. But the Monday night game is kind of boring. It's the Browns versus the Broncos. So really good, intriguing matchups. If you like interdivision, you're starting to see some of this stuff shape out. I think you're really going to start needing to see a win by the Ravens to kind of push the Steelers. The Steelers need to win. They need to keep on winning out because they're 8-3, and just keep on doing their thing. I'm not sure when the Steelers have their bye week. Let's see something here. Just checky here. Yeah, top 4 teams right now are Detroit, Philadelphia, Seattle, and Atlanta. Minnesota, Green Bay, Commanders, and Cardinals are the top 8 teams. So if you're going with I think it's a two divisional teams or 2 wild card teams? Yeah, it's 2 wild card. So that's going to be interesting. You have 3 teams from the NFC North in there right now. It's pretty sweet. The NFC. AFC, you have Kansas City, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, Baltimore, Chargers. So you have teams stomping on the doorstep here. You have the Denver Broncos. And that's pretty much it. So should be fun. All right, guys. Hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate you joining me. I think we continue on with the season of the NFL. A lot of great parity, a lot of great matchups going into Week 13. Week 12 was kind of, like I said, a lot of it was good, a lot of it was bad, and all these good things happen for a reason. Like I said, happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate you watching, listening, having a good time. Feel free to join me on social media. Let's have a good one, guys. Take it easy.